So if I just open up my Xero environment, you can see here the typical view you're going to see on your type. And you can see from this view I have nothing in my draft and nothing in awaiting approval. And as I process my invoices through the system, so these two areas will become populated as the invoices get processed. Initially, when they get registered, they'll be shown into the draft area, and once I process them through, they'll be going through for awaiting approval. So let me just click onto the environment to send that through. I'm going to log into the system. And each user has its own rights and privileges assigned to them to get onto the system. And I've logged on here. You can see here the typical view that somebody's going to see. And you can see on my screen I actually have two invoices awaiting for me to process already. And this is the typical work environment someone would see. And you can see overall I have two waiting to be processed in overall processing. If we go to my upload, this is the area where you can upload the invoices images. And that can be either by email, it can be drag and drop, it can be browse to a folder, or other different methods including scanning using a default scanner. Now I'm going to drag and drop an image onto the system. I'm dragging it here, and this one is for Phase HR. If I just minimise this out of the way and click on Start, that's now uploaded onto my system waiting to be processed. So while I wait for the processing to happen where it's going to identify the supplier and extract the data, then we go into my Verify environment and process these two invoices out for you. When I start up the screen, as Shitanshu said earlier on, this is the typical screen you see with the image in the centre. On the right hand side you can see here that the buyer information here is ReadSoft. We have supplier information which is generated by our master vendor upload that comes directly from Xero. If I click on supplier here you can see, I'll just remove the filter, you can see the details of those suppliers in the system. And I say these are being uploaded directly from the Xero system. If we look across again, you can see here where we've got the invoice details, so this is where we identify it as an invoice. If it is found to be a credit note, we pick up on the detail of the words credit note and convert this from a credit note, from an invoice to a credit note. But I can also select it here and set this to be a credit note automatically by setting the flag at this point. But this is actually an invoice, so let's leave it as an invoice. You can see here the invoice number is being collected, the invoice date. You can see here the delivery date of the delivery note details. Then we have our net, our VAT rate, our VAT value. There's no delivery cost on this one because it's part of the line item. Then we have our gross value, which is a sum of these values here. So the first check we do is check that these values all add up and that the VAT amount is actually against the valid VAT rate. Then we capture the line item details, and if I zoom in here and highlight these, you can see here that we've actually picked up those line items. And they're showing down the bottom with the line item product code, the description, the quantity, the unit price, the total value of the invoice itself as that line item. Then if we have VAT rates and VAT values, they can be picked up as well. On this particular instance, we don't have VAT shown on this invoice. We actually do a calculation at this point that the quantity times unit price should match the total value of the line item. Then we do a calculation of the two together to check that the total line items match the total net value of the invoice. And that way we can ensure that all the values have been correctly captured and validated. This one has been validated as all my checks are shown as green here. Anything that shows in amber or in red will be a warning message and will prevent you from passing the invoices through until they've been rectified. At this point my OK button is now available. If I click on that, that now sets the invoice ready to be processed into my Xero system. And the next one we have here for some protection, and again very similar thing, the invoice numbers being found, the invoice date, the delivery note number, etc., and all the other values including all the line item details as you can see here. Now our system is self-learning, so the first time it sees an invoice it will try to capture the data first time, and that's based on the different titles, etc. found on the invoice and the location of where we expect to find the values. Plus with our calculation and validations we ensure that we always pick up the correct values. So next time it sees this invoice, as you can see here, everything is being collected correctly. So I'm going to OK this one, that now moves it on, and here's our invoice we passed through earlier on. So I'm going to pick this one up and process it. You see here, hopefully everything's alright, apart from the fact it hasn't picked up the line item. And that's why I have a warning message here. So I'm just going to show it where the line items are, very quickly and efficiently. Tell it what I'm looking for, so I want the product number, which here is the date. The description is this, where the invoice interviews. Just pick that up again. Interviews, let me just pick that. Put it around again, there we go. So I can drag and drop around there. Line item quantities next, which is here. Next one now is unit price. Next one is the total value. And I say if there was VAT on there, we'd pick that up as well, but there isn't. Click on finish and everything's gone to green. And at that stage, my button here has gone to green and my validation has run and picked everything up. So again, I click OK. Now because I'm running this on a demonstration system, I just need to quickly run this execution here to register the invoice into my system, which is what you can see running away in there. And if I go into my Xero environment, what's this finish doing what it's doing? This wouldn't actually be shown to anybody. This is a service that runs in the background, but I'll run it quickly here just to show the values coming through. And here when I press F5 and refresh, you see those 3 invoices are now waiting to be shown in my Xero system. And when I click on one of these values here, not only can you see the actual price of the invoice, that's all the details, but also the line item details are brought through with all the coding information as well. So I'll just come back out of here, go back into purchases, and then go back into my ReadSoft environment, and now go to approved. I can actually view the coding lines that are being applied. Now, the benefit of putting coding lines at this stage is the fact that if you're just a standard bookkeeper, you probably aren't doing this process because of the time and effort it takes to do this. But actually our system allows you to do this and add value to the client, for your clients, in actual being able to give the coding elements and analytics for their actual cost base. So here is all my line item details, but now against the account codes, the debit amounts are there, my descriptions, the quantities, the tax amounts being calculated, etc. And also the tax types being brought through. So I'm just going to approve these 3 invoices, and you'll see them going through from draft into awaiting approval. Going here, and similarly here. I'm going to go back into my Xero environment again. Let's click on that, and click on this one to refresh it. You see again, they pass through into the system, and then they're being submitted. 3 invoices go through, and now if I look in my system, you should see them here. Now I'm going to move from the draft stage across. Let's see what's going on there. Come back again. This side has tricked me here. Okay, go back into my accounts and into purchases. And there I've moved from the draft now into my waiting approval. And there they are sitting in there waiting to be processed. So that's a typical view and process within Xero. So I'm going to do the same thing this time now, but this time it's going to be within Sage.